The views or opinions expressed on Ann Arbor Inclusive do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the City of Ann Arbor and the Commission on Disability Issues. For more information about the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues, please visit a2gov.org/disability resources.
Hello everyone and welcome to Ann Arbor Inclusive. I'm Zach Damon. We have a wonderful show for you today as athlete and junior Paralympian Angeline LeVasseur joins us in studio. And Angeline, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'd like to just get things rolling if I may. So, your athletic career started young, and you became a varsity letter winner in swimming as a freshman at Pinckney Community High School back in 2007, and in 2008 became the youngest recipient to be awarded the Kudzelman Award by the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness, given to athletes who continue to pursue an athletic lifestyle and promote health and fitness. In your opinion, why is fitness and physical activity important for those in the disability community?
I think really it helps with staying at your best. I know that in my own experience through my swimming, it helped me kind of stay away from any problematic major issues.
Sure.
So definitely that is a helpful part of that.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's got to be a great feeling being able to push your body to a limit. And you probably notice this too. After a great workout, you have those endorphins pumping in your body, and it gets you so relaxed.
Yeah,
that's just such an awesome feeling.
When I'm in the water, it's the best thing in the world, best feeling in the world. I can, have a day where I'm just absolutely miserable and just tired, and then the next morning get up early and get in the water, and it's like all of that kind of goes away.
Sure. It's almost meditative, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and of course you were born with spina bifida, a condition where the central nervous system doesn't necessarily form properly during the early stages of pregnancy. And of course, knowing others with disabilities like I do, some would have been discouraged actually to participate in athletics, but this was not the case for you. And what circumstances led you to become involved with athletics at a young age?
So I have always been a water bug ever since I was an infant. And when we moved out to the area of Pinckney, my mom had spoken with the local club coach and had told her the situation with me.
Sure.
And asked her if she would take me on as an athlete, and she did. And then later, a few years into that, we came across, my family, really as a whole, came across an article in the newspaper.
Sure.
About disability sports just in general.
Wow.
And we got in contact with the family that this article was about.
Yeah.
And I started competing with them in numerous events. But swimming really became, because I had been doing it, I had been involved with it.
Sure.
In other capacities. That really, it stuck with me. It was something that stuck with me.
Sure.
So.
No, that's awesome. And I think it's amazing, too, that you guys reached out to that family, and they were so receptive, bringing you in and having you participate. And, that had to be, of course, just a great experience for you.
Yeah, it's been the adaptive sports, disability sports has been just another really big part of my life. It's really it's a whole different world.
Yep.
Especially growing up as the oldest of a large family with being the only one with a disability. Having that second world to kind of go to and have people that you can relate with.
Sure.
100% is one of the greatest things in the world.
Yeah, it's almost like another family. Wonderful. Now, you touched on this a little bit, but you've also participated in other sports such as sled hockey, wheelchair racing, and track, just to name a few. But again, talk about the moment that you really knew that swimming was the sport for you.
I think it really goes back to what I said. I've always been a water bug. I grew up in the water. My grandparents, when they lived on a lake, we were always in the water in the summer. So the water was just where I fit, where I felt like I fit, and it kind of was that escape from the reality of my disability, and that, again, being from a large family, the only one really that has a disability, physical disability.
Sure.
I kind of was able to, at that point, blend in, I guess.
Okay.
Fit in, just be like everybody else. That was the way that my parents raised me from day one. They, not knowing what the future would hold, they raised me to believe that I was just like anybody else, and the water was that place where I truly felt like I was just like everybody else.
Wonderful. And, speaking of, being able to just make friends and do well, we talked earlier about how you were a varsity letter winner at Pinckney Community High School, but you also got a standing ovation at your graduation ceremony. So let's take a look. How many people get a standing ovation at their high school? Can you talk about the emotion of that moment?
That was a really kind of you can't explain it, kind of a moment. I went into that moment where nobody really knew about this.
Oh, really?
A year prior to this, I had spoken with the administration at my school and had said, I really would love to be able to walk at graduation. It was funny because they kind of had the reaction of, wait, what did you say? Seriously? What? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to walk at graduation. I had grown up using a walking brace. So, and then because of multiple different factors, I was not able to continue in the walking braces. And it really worked out with switching class, going into middle school, high school, where you're switching classes, you're carrying books throughout the building. It just was easier to use my wheelchair.
Yeah.
But again, that moment was another I'm just like everybody else moment.
Yep.
And I wanted people to see that. And then, the news picked up on it.
Yeah.
And it was a huge story for days. But really, so, and then I think too there was a little bit of, I don't know, not really anger, but a little upset because, I didn't really, I always had a hard time in school,
Sure.
especially academically,
Yeah.
and so that, I think, really hindered on my confidence.
Well, but
to
it says
be involved with people, with my peers. So, this big moment happens,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" and
yeah.
this is so cool, and
Yep.
and it's like, you guys have known me for years.
Mm-hmm. Well,
This
it
is
says
nothing different,
right.
Well,
and it says a lot about you to get a standing ovation from your high school, and it says a lot about the hard work and dedication that you put into your studies, and I think everyone at the high school recognized that, and I commend you for that. Now, when you talk about confidence and developing confidence, and in 2009, you competed at the Great Lakes Adaptive Swimming Association competition, winning 9 gold medals. In the summer of 2010, you competed in the National Junior Disability Championships, taking home 6 gold medals and 1 silver. And you were also one of 16 athletes named to the 2010 IWAS Junior World Games team, representing the United States in the Czech Republic. And at the Junior World Championships, you won a bronze medal in the 400 freestyle. So tell me, Angeline, what does it feel like to win a medal for your country?
It's one of those, again, indescribable feelings. I went into this event because I was hoping to claim a spot or get a spot on the 2012 Paralympic team going to London. And I was working with a coach for that, specifically out of Toledo. He was out of Toledo.
Sure.
And I'd spoken to him about the 2010 International Games.
Yeah.
And said, you know, I think this would be a really great opportunity for me to get kind of this hands-on experience with what it's like to be in the Paralympics. And we signed me up for the team. And I found out actually as a birthday gift.
Wow.
That I made the team.
That is amazing.
That I made the team. And I was I would say I was nervous going into it, but I was nervous because we had traveled for 3 or 4 days prior to
is that right?
The competition.
Wow.
And we also had been on a 14-hour flight.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and it had been a couple of days.
Right.
In addition to that.
Sure.
That I had last been in the water.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know, I'm going to go into this competition. I'm going to be sore. I'm going to be tight, like my muscles are going to be tight. I'm not going to perform at my best.
Right.
And that first day of competition, I went in and I swam the 400 free, and I have to say that was probably the best I've ever felt in a race.
That's
that
amazing.
I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And we ended up staying at the pool the whole day because the way it runs is they do swims in the morning, and then they do swims in the afternoon.
Do you really? So you have 2 competitions in one day?
So we had 2 separate
wow.
kind of competitions and different events. Or I think for that one, it was if you swam well enough in the morning, you swam in the evening. I can't remember.
Okay.
But they said, you know, when we got there in the afternoon, after we had our warm-ups, they said we're going to start the competition and then announce for some of the events, the awards, and then alternate.
Yeah.
And they announced, we in the morning had gotten the results. After the morning session, we had gotten the results for the morning.
Okay.
While we were having lunch. And I had a personal best.
Nice.
Coming out of it.
Yeah.
And we saw that I had claimed the fifth spot.
Okay.
The 5th place spot. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good with that. I swam a personal best. It was a great race. I'm happy with it. And then when they announced that race for the award ceremony, they announced my name for the 3rd place spot.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like one of my teammates looked to me and he said, did you hear that? And I said, yeah, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So my coach that was with me, he's like, well, grab your warm-ups and we'll go and we'll see what happens. And
right.
So he was talking to the guy and he turns and looks at me and he says, go up for the medal. And I'm like, well, what happened? He said, we'll talk after.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And some mishaps had happened in the results, and so when they corrected those results, that put me at the 3rd place spot.
Wonderful.
And claiming the bronze medal. And so I mean, it went from like confusion,
right?
Because I didn't, you know, we expected that I wasn't coming home with a medal in that event.
Right.
And
exactly.
They're announcing my name for a medal.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's happening, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And I think that entire rest of the trip, that medal was around my neck.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be on cloud 9 if I won a medal.
Yeah,
I mean, that feeling, Angeline.
You know, I was traveling with the team by myself, and so when I got back to the hotel that night for from that event, I was so ready, like I was so excited to get in touch with my family and friends back, here in Michigan, to tell them that, because we had talked about, oh, it would be so awesome to come home with a medal or a personal time. And, I was always in agreement with that, but I always thought, I'm still kind of new at this. Give me a couple more years, and then I'll end up getting a medal. And then, out of out of nowhere, I find out the first day of competition in this major event that I'm coming home with a bronze medal.
Well, and I don't think it was out of nowhere. I mean, you trained a lot leading up to that event. I mean, can you talk about the training schedule that you're on and that those junior Paralympians have to go through in order to qualify and then
So when I started, kind of give you a backdrop story.
Sure.
2005, I was training for the Junior Nationals in Tampa, Florida. And when my mom had come to pick me up, she had told me that 2012 London would be holding the Paralympics. And at that point, it was like, okay, this is a goal that I would love to shoot for.
Sure.
And so that was when I was swimming with the club team that I had started with back in 2000, right from the beginning. At that point, I was swimming 4 days a week for an hour and then increasing to an hour and a half. And then in my high school years, it was, it varied because we had meets on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons. So we swam Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday morning. And then Monday, Wednesday, and then a shorter practice on Friday afternoon.
Okay.
So I was ranging probably an average of 2 hours 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow, that is a lot.
And then my sophomore year, in addition to that training, when I was done with when the high school season had ended, I would go back to my workouts with my Paralympic coach.
Yeah.
And I was swimming anywhere from 5 to 7 days a week for 2 hours.
Okay.
And additionally going to the gym to do weightlifting and that 3 times a week.
Sure, sure.
For like an hour, hour and a half. And I had somebody that I would try to work with.
Sure.
Try to schedule time to work with her so I wasn't doing workouts on my own.
How do you stay motivated every morning to get up and get in the pool and work out?
It's not easy. It's not easy. I remember my senior year. I had known the coach for a number of years.
Yeah.
And, we set goals for myself because swimming as an individual with a disability, physical disability, on an able-bodied team, it's a little bit harder. So we would adjust my workouts, but by my senior year, we were trying to do as little adjusting to the workouts as we possibly could.
Okay.
And we have a week at the end of the season called Hell Week, where we're swimming. We swim all week. Wow. We don't have any shortened practices. We don't have meets. We don't have any of those kinds of things.
Wow. So all it is condition.
Yeah. So and it's usually probably double the workout. So for example, if you are swimming for an hour in the morning and you do 2,000 yards, the morning actually wasn't really different. The morning was always 4,000 yards.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, if you have a 2-hour practice, you swim, say, 6,000. We were doing, 8, 9, sometimes even 10,000 yards.
That
we were doing a lot. 10,000 yards. We were doing a lot of yards.
Wow.
In that Hell Week, and that's every year.
Right.
And I was adamant that I was going to stick to doing as much of all of everybody else's workout that I possibly could. And I remember just being so completely exhausted
Oh, yeah.
by the end of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I can't.
By even the middle of the week, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it the next 2-3 days. But I managed to make it, and the cool thing even about that was, and similarly to my bronze medal, because that was just before my senior year. This overwhelming sense of pride, because I had worked so hard for so long. Before my bronze medal, it had been 10 years of training.
10 years leading up to.
10 years of training before that moment happened.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming because you work so hard, and to have an accomplishment like that, it's like all of that hard work, all of those not wanting to get up in the morning.
Well, the sacrifice.
The sacrifice,
right.
Absolutely. The just feeling like you just want to cry because you're so tired. You feel sleep deprived, and it makes it worth it. It totally makes it worth it.
That's amazing.
Having accomplished something after working so hard for it.
And I really commend you. I mean, because you talk about that sacrifice, and a lot of times, you know, I feel like, you know, there are some out there that watch, you know, the Olympic Games, you know, on television, and, you know, hear that wonderful song that comes on and see those athletes compete, but sometimes they have no idea the grasp of the sacrifice and the discipline that it takes to get to that level. And so for you touching on that, I think is extremely informative, and I definitely learned a lot myself. I mean, for other, you know, athletes with disabilities out there that have the same aspirations and want to go on and win some accolades, what words of advice do you have for them?
Truly and honestly, being true to who you are, being true to yourself, believing in yourself, and never giving up. I've, you know, in this time, it has been exhausting. You know, at times, there have been trials that I've had to go through.
Sure.
It was never sunshine and beautifulness. Throughout my years of swimming.
So just keep a positive attitude.
But, you know, had I given up, you know, 10 years ago, you know, when I was halfway there, none of this would have happened. You know, I had to constantly fight through it. Athletes that do that, they sacrifice so much of their time to train for these events, and it takes a lot of hard work, but never giving up on it. It makes it worth it in the end when you finally reach that goal that you've been wanting to for so long.
Yeah, well, you know, the old saying goes, quitters never win and winners never quit. Lastly, you've accomplished a lot in your career as a junior Paralympian, including being honored by the Athletes with Disabilities Hall of Fame as a rising star. Would you ever consider swimming for Team USA in the Paralympics?
Yes, absolutely. That is where I'm hoping to go next. As I said, I was training for London in 2012, and that was just before trials and getting to that point. I had some roadblocks that I hit with my health and other things, so I was never back on my feet to make it to trials, but absolutely, I would love to be earning a spot on the Paralympic team.
Wonderful. Well, as you get back in the pool and get back to that training regimen and you know, get yourself back to that peak condition, which we know you'll do, you have our full support. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And well, folks, That's all the time we have for today, but I'd like to thank Angeline for being on the show and hope you enjoyed the program. Be sure to tune into Ann Arbor Inclusive next month, and as always, stay awesome, Ann Arbor.